So to begin with, even the very idea that we can be addicted to fear and anxiety, people are like, wait a minute, no. We might be addicted to drugs that seem to help us cope with fear and anxiety, but they don't realize fear and anxiety is actually something people are addicted to. Now, the mainstream world of psychotherapy and such, maybe medical science as well, but the mainstream world is going to say the progression or genesis of this is going to be a person has some sort of trauma in their life, most often attributed to something in childhood, but not necessarily childhood or not exclusively childhood. But they'll say there's some traumatic event that has affected you, and whether it was literal trauma or perceived as trauma, it then caused you to have an ongoing programmed response. That's kind of true, but yet it's kind of not true. What they don't understand is that there's life before childhood. We come in with these things, lifetimes, but even for those who don't believe in such a thing, let's just say it another way. It's almost like the old Catholic Christian concept of born with original sin. So let's go with that for a sec. We are divine beings. There's just no getting around that. Thank God, we are divine beings made in God's image. However, something has shifted since that moment. Now, in reality, you can't shift what God has created, but what seems to have happened is that we have been sort of tricked into experiencing a world that doesn't exist, or a world that is not the one God created. So in some weird kind of a way, you could also say, if we want to play with the word almost like conspiracy, but I don't mean it in any way to get your heart racing, because that would be counterproductive to today's talk. There's almost like a hypnosis. Everybody's gone or was given a hypnotic trance. And so the world lives under this hypnotic trance, believing that we are something that we're not, that we are somewhere that we are not, experiencing things that we are not, and so on and so on. So again, we're divine beings, and that's just so cool. Let's remember that, because some of your cure for anxiety and fear, panic attacks included, is to remember who we really are. To breathe in the I am on the inhale and at peace on the exhale. See, now if I just go, I am at peace, but I stay anxious, it's not going to help. But at least saying the words does help. Feeling the words takes it to a whole new level. So you say it, you pace yourself, you basically get your parasympathetic nervous system to override your sympathetic nervous system. And, in a way, we need all these systems while we're here on Earth, these seeming, bodily systems to function. We've got our central nervous system and so on. But we've got our sympathetic nervous system, and it says, well, I need to be here in case you need something, and we're going to jump left, jump right, we're going to do something. But the parasympathetic is like the counter to that. I think some people have taught that parasympathetic means simply like to run alongside sympathetic. That's not what it means. Para, you could say, is better defined as beyond, which is a cool definition, because parasympathetic would mean it's not just sympathetic nervous system, it is like beyond. It's parasympathetic. There was once a scientist named Celsus, and eventually sometime after him, a metaphysical scientist, physician and such, comes along and he says, well, I'm not just Celsus, I am Paracelsus, meaning I'm beyond. It was actually his father that said, you're going to be beyond Celsus. So, parasympathetic, beyond, meaning almost like it's not your physical system, but your metaphysical system. And that's cool because it's your parasympathetic system that you can use to counteract whatever the world is trying to do to you, whatever your fears and anxieties are trying to do. So keep that in mind. Not that you need to memorize all that, or that you even need to know that it's parasympathetic. Just enough to know I have a choice. I am relaxed. I am at peace, or something along those lines. It's just a beautiful exercise in free will. So this world, tells us that there's a problem. We come in, we're ultimately made in God's image, but we come into this world, and whether it's cumulative of past lives or whether it's childhood traumas, at some point something happens, and then that's where science can tell you, or psychology could tell you, well, you're now going to be maybe living some of the effects of that. It's programmed in your receptors / brain / nervous system, whatever. And now you just have this automatic, response. And that's true, but not true. It's true, but it's missing something. Somewhere between our wholeness, innocence, healthiness, non-stress, fear, anxious self, somewhere beyond that. Before that happened, we had trauma. But before we had trauma, we birthed an ego, meaning a false self. Religion would call it the devil, but it's the ego. And yeah, the devil made me do it concept. We're not using that in the blame context, but what happens is the ego wants you to believe that you are less, that we are less than God created us to be. It tricks us into believing that. That's the metaphor of the Garden of Eden, where the devil, Satan is on the tree and tricks Eve. We're Eve. We're Adam and Eve, but in this case, we're Eve. We are this receptive, open, innocent being. And this conniving being comes into the picture, convinces us that we are less than whole. And you could say, well, God, why would we listen to such a thing? We do it every stinking day. You walk through checkout stands and there's a magazine telling you there's 10 of something that you don't have. 3 of this that you should have. You're not going to be happy if you don't do these 5 things. You'll never be healthy if you don't eat these 3 things. I mean, it sells. And you don't even have to see the magazine cover. The stuff is there constantly programming. Believe it or not, like if you ever did hypnotherapy, they've done complex experiments where you can walk through a checkout stand, you walk out of the store, they can say, okay, now let's do a test. What things did you see in the checkout stand? Well, I saw this one lady in front of me. She was wearing a blue sweater. Okay, you remember anything else? Color of hair, vaguely remember that. And the checker was a male, and my bill was around $23, but I don't remember exactly. Okay, that's it. They put you under hypnosis, and all of a sudden you go, let's see, the checkout stand, there were 5 magazines on the rack, and they were these topics, these headings, and so on. It's like you actually are seeing, or better worded, absorbing more than you imagine, that you're absorbing. And most of it is garbage. And I know, everybody's got to make a living, everybody's got a right to do what they want. Whatever, there are candy bars on the rack, the cigarettes on the rack. I don't know if they do that anymore. I remember it as a kid. But you have these things, and you're absorbing that. It's called stimulus. And we are addicted to stimulus because, in a sense, picture this, guys, and I hope, this doesn't all sound too gloomy, but in a sense, we forgot our divinity, and that doesn't feel really good. So we automatically start to crash. Energetically, historically, we start to crash. It's like let's pretend it only happened one time. We started, at noon today or whatever, and we were birthed, given consciousness, and by 1 o'clock, there's this barrage of lies that tell us that we're not beautiful, that we're not whole, that we're not truly innocent. We're flawed. People are out to get us because we're flawed, which means we're vulnerable. Vulnerable to what? People that can get you. Really? Where are they? Well, this gets really freaky, so hang in there with me. As soon as you have this, wait a minute, there are people out to get me, which is based on my feeling flawed. If I'm a goddess, who's going to get me? First, you have to feel or identify with the belief that you're flawed, which means you bit the apple in the garden. You're believing a lie, that it is not true, but you're believing it. So that tree of knowledge is actually a tree of lies, and we bit from it. So what the story tells us. So, okay, now I was born at noon, manifested, created at noon. Before long, I turned on a TV and it told me something. I could not even turn on a TV. I could just look outside and I see a spider catches a butterfly and it's killing it. Oh my gosh, what's that? Death. You know, a thing that Buddha's family tried to keep him from seeing. But you can't, because the world is here trying to seduce and stimulate, and or a combination of the two, you know, a seduce or stimulate or a combination. So all of a sudden I'm going, wow, something's wrong. I'm starting to feel something's off. What is this? And all of a sudden this darkness overtakes. Kind of reminds me of the movie What Dreams May Come, where there's a scene where the man goes into hell to find the soul of his wife so he can bring her back. He thinks he can bring her back with love. But the warning is, if you're there too long, you'll start to believe the vibration of where you are and you'll be lost. And that's what happens. In the movie, they use color and they use lighting and they use sound to really emphasize it. You know, there he is 1 minute talking, loving her, and all of a sudden she starts shifting or whatever, but he starts going into darkness. And you just see it. You see it in his face, you hear it, you feel it. It's like that. We were okay, and all of a sudden, done. We're gone. Something's happened. And this is in consciousness. But whatever gets programmed in consciousness also then is in our soul, and then it's in our mind. If it's in our mind, it's in our brain, because the mind will, you know, the consciousness will program the brain once we reach a body. The brain is going to then send that through the system as programs. Here are our realities. The brain's going to say, I'm basically a storehouse. And in the meantime, the receptors on the skin are going to be doing the same thing, gathering more information, saying, receptor to brain, we've verified there's enemy, to the left, to the right, to the front, to the back. There's enemy everywhere. Oh, so it's true. I should be afraid. Now, it gets really interesting because the ego is like a really gross business that loves to win either way, like a stock market or like war. They will find a way to win no matter what's happening. Good, really, the really good versions, the disgusting versions of things, you think war, you can't win. It's a business. So they're going to find ways to win. And stock market's even worse because if they're the people that really run it behind the scenes, which is a metaphor of the ego, because if the stock market crashes, average people and wealthy people too are going to lose money. But there's people that are wealthier than the wealthy, and they are always making money. They're always profiting off of everyone's losses and gains. You gain, they win. You lose, they win. But it's just kind of bizarre. Well, the ego does that with chemistry. It's going to make sure you lose, no matter what. So you incarnate black or white, it's going to win. It's going to just win no matter what. You're going to lose, but it's going to win. You manifest, you incarnate male or female, doesn't matter, it's going to win. You're the predator or the victim, it's going to win. Because everyone else loses. So as long as the ego can be certain that you lose, it wins. You see? So chemically speaking, it does the same thing. So again, going back over this, the ego comes to exist and tricks us into believing we're flawed. Then tells us you need to watch out. As soon as there's watch out, you start to feel fear. Now, what am I going to do? Well, I don't like feeling fear all the time, so I'm going to feel two feelings. Once I'm convinced that I'm flawed, I'm going to either need stimulated or sedated. And of course, a combination of those. Most human beings, it's clearly a combination. But we might certainly lean towards one or another. So if I see, it's unconsciously, but what's worse, it becomes conscious. Unconsciously, I'm depressed because I feel separate from love, from God, from God, from myself, and from others. I feel separate. And so I feel depressed. I'm going to need a little bit of a stimulant. And or I feel scared, which makes me feel anxious. The opposite of depressed. I'm manic, I'm up, but in an unhealthy way. So I feel hyperstimulated, or I feel overly sedated. And what is this doing to my glands? It wears. Because if I've got that stimulus, my adrenaline's running, I've got, all kinds of things happening in my system. Cortisol, which is just killing me, creating acidity in my glands and my blood. So I'm not bathing in acid because I'm anxious. But I'm anxious. See, a doctor's going to say, or someone's going to say, you're anxious because you had this terrible event happen. Someone tried to steal your car once with you in it, and you had this, trauma. So now you have, post-trauma. So you'll have panic attacks and so on and so on. It's normal. Take this, drug. So what happened is I'm feeling anxious, so you're going to sedate me. But the ego's got all this figured out. It already knows that you feel separate from your divinity, and therefore you are anxious or depressed about that. So it's going to set you up with a sort of a chemistry lab in your system. And it'll say, how are we doing today? And you go, I'm getting so, unconsciously speaking, I'm getting so depressed that I'm starting to just think something's wrong with this picture. I got to try something. I'm going to go see a therapist, or I'm going to do some work on this. And then it'll give you some false stimulant to make sure you don't feel quite badly enough to go and heal yourself, or get help. So it'll mess with this game of ups and downs. But what's worse is we are getting a chemical fix. We are getting addicted, because once I believe I'm separate from God and I start to feel anxious, remember, there's parts of me that also have depression and so on inside, all unconscious, usually unconscious, but all of a sudden it hits the conscious level too. So now I'm really getting far off, and then I start hopefully reaching out for some help. But most people won't. Most people don't. They'll just get a drink. They'll just get a drug. They'll get a sex addiction, a relationship addiction, whatever, even eating. The old saying, I'm kind of depressed, I'm going to have some ice cream. I feel better when somebody broke up with me, and I'm going to go have some ice cream. The ice cream isn't actually curing your relationship patterns. Let's be honest, right? What is happening? I'm actually having a drug experience. I need to give my body something that makes it think I don't feel so bad. And all that does, if any of you watch TV and you see ads for commercials for whatever, antidepressants or any kind of drug, it has the big speech about the side effects. Well, that in itself tells you, even if you do ice cream, there's going to be side effects because you're having a drug. It's not a drug made per se in a lab that's dished out pharmaceutically, but it's not far off from that. Somebody did make that. They do want to stimulate you or sedate you with it. And they know that. I mean, just like all the story about, foods, how they pump up so many fast foods with sugars because it's addictive. They put things in cigarettes to purposefully addict people to it. I mean, you couldn't get more disgusting in your, covert and overt behaviors, hooking people like that. But it is this world. But I'm saying it's not all based on traumas. It's based on our belief systems of who we are. So then it gets really weird because my beliefs are downloaded from my soul to my mind to my brain, but also from my soul to my mind and my mind into my chakras or spiritual centers, and then into my glands. So not only will I have neurotransmitters firing or being sent, I will have also hormones from the glands moving into my system. Well, they're just going to do whatever. I'm just a victim of whatever they do. No. Our beliefs about ourselves determine what chemistry, neurotransmitters and hormones, are released into our body. Dopamine, even the whole concept, all doped up, man. This relaxes you. It kind of helps you chill, No. It all has effects that nobody understands. They think they understand it. No sooner do they understand it, 10 years later, they're going to change their perception of it because they were not right in the first place. None of these chemistries that come from ego are going to be good. None of them. Well, I need a little of that for, but it's great, but it's going to have side effects. And I'm not saying don't take an aspirin when you have a headache. I'm not giving you a speech about doing and don't doing things on that level. All I'm saying is there's a chemistry in us that is a manifestation of our psychology, and our psychology is a manifestation of our spirituality. So our soul experience, I'm separate, I'm not separate, that's going to determine what happens in my body right now. And we think things happen and then our body reacts. No, believe it or not, in your body, once the chemistry is set up, today I feel separate still, and I feel a little anxious about that. Believe it or not, my belief that I'm separate, that resulted in a certain level, subtle level of anxiety in my system, as soon as that happens, I become predisposed to events coming up in my day that create an anxious response. And I'll go, God, I feel anxious because this is happening. You already felt anxious, and the chemicals in your system actually attracted events that resonated with something that causes anxiety. We actually do create, you could call it law of attraction, but just not in the lame sell you something kind of hype. This is a spiritual thing. I don't speak about law of attraction in the form of I'm going to use my mind to make things happen in my life. All that is spiritual arrogance. Okay, it's just silly and it's a good sales pitch. So do what you want with it, but it's bogus. On another note, the real version of law of attraction is that my soul, just because I say I want this and I want to create that, that only helps us manifest things. It's still coming from our ego. You want to really come from the right place, you have to get aligned with something different. If I create from myself, my personal self, I'm very much potentially still coming from my ego. So would you like the law of attraction? They should call it the law of attraction on how to create from your ego. That's what you would be doing. It's the ego's law of attraction. But there's also a spiritual law of attraction. You can't have a spiritual law of attraction if you don't have spirit involved with the attraction. If you're just trying to create your new partner, your soulmate, or a nice night out on the town, anything you're trying to create, I want to create a new car, a new job. If it's still you're the one who got yourself into the mess. So why would you rely on you to create something better just because it's a cooler little law that you heard about? No. God. God is the thing to attract from. Align with God, co-create from God, with God, then you are attracting healthy. So there's a law of attraction with a capital A, law of attraction lowercase a, anything that doesn't have God involved with the law of attraction, with the actual concept or the technique. And I mean God, the creator, not the, well, I am God crap, I mean the real thing. So if you have God involved, yes, congratulations, capital A, you're practicing the law of attraction. That was just an aside. All right. Now, back to the point, which is still related. My consciousness, my beliefs of whether I'm connected or not to spirit will determine my day. And it actually happens chemically. So I technically not only create because I feel afraid. See, if I have trauma, if I feel separate and then it creates traumas in my life, I might become maybe what they call a victim. Now I actually have the chemistry of a victim. The bummer is people around me can sense it. They can actually, smell it, feel it, and they know who to take advantage of. What do I have, an L on my forehead for loser? I just keep attracting these things. People keep taking advantage, or a V for victim. Yeah, you kind of do. It's in your chemistry. But adding to that, my choices to not heal mean that I'm also choosing to stay in that particular program. So one of the ways to fix this, to heal this, is healing. You have to turn this around. You have to say, first of all, there's a problem. Not, I wish people didn't treat me like this. It's, wait a minute, I play a part. And I'm going to go ahead and retire myself from that. How? You're gonna, try a lot of different ways. You're gonna find yourself on the hamster wheel of, attempting to fix these kinds of things. And it goes around and around and it just doesn't get anywhere. So how am I going to, see, one of the scariest or weirdest things is, how am I going to heal my patterns of victim or anxiety or fear? You cannot if you don't realize you're actually addicted to it. I'm not addicted, I'm a victim. Well, you're addicted to that too. How dare you? People have hurt me. I'm not addicted. I know. I'm not blaming you. I'm saying that the experience, this is, in a sense, you could say medical science, that, it's a parabiology, which is that your receptors allow certain things in and reject certain things. What it's accepting, energetically and chemically, are things that relate to your past patterns. It really doesn't want too much going on by way of foreign substances. So it allows in what is familiar. And if you've been a victim or you've been, in a role of anxieties and fears, it's used to that. So it actually allows more of it in, which then feeds our system with that. So even when I don't know it, I'm being given subtle doses of fear and anxiety. Okay, now what's that doing to my system? Keeps constant adrenaline, cortisol, acidity running into my system. I can go out and eat the finest alkaline foods, pure raw vegetables or salads or whatever. Those are alkaline based on their ash content in the system, in the bloodstream. After you digest it, doesn't matter, turns to acid, because you've got this, it's like having in a computer where you have certain programs running in the background, it's called. You might seem to be doing just fine right now, but there's this thing running in the background, fear and anxiety. And you don't realize it, but your body's absorbing it from God knows what. If you were brought up with you never know when something could go wrong. I never know when something could go wrong. I'm programmed, I got this, I never know, and you just go with it like a robot, just programmed. I never know when something can go wrong. And your system goes, oh crap, to that. We better keep the cortisol going. We better keep the adrenaline going. We better keep your system up, your sympathetic nervous system. You never know, because that's your program. The parasympathetic means, I don't like this. There's something wrong with this picture. I'm going to call it. I'm going to say, hey, wait a minute. Somebody's lying to me. There is a world, there is a dimension where there is no attack. There's no need to be afraid, and so on. Now, I have to say real quick, that's not the world we're used to seeing, and you could definitely come across looking like you're in denial, to walk around going, gosh, even though everything's falling apart, and look, there's a tree about to fall on me, but there's some dimension where everything's just okay, so I'll just stay right here. Oh, it's not going to work. I'll have to admit it, This world will keep trying to force you into its hypnotic program. That's why we're told we need to learn to be in the world, but not of the world. That's why we're told, Jesus says, be as gentle as doves, which means be nice, be cool, chill, but as wise as serpents, means know the game. Know that you're being lied to. But you don't have to go and get on a soapbox and scream it to everybody. You don't have to walk into work tomorrow, we're all being lied to. You don't have to go and wrestle your doctors to the ground and tell them, you didn't tell me this, or your psychotherapist. You don't have to do any of that. Be as gentle as doves, but wake up inside. Inside, start to recognize what really is going on. And the good news is, if you really do understand what I'm saying, you wouldn't go out and shake anybody up for it, because you'd realize that would be reacting to the lie, which would be a little insane for me to react to something that isn't true. That's a definition of insanity. So, no, I'd rather be sane so I can say, forgive them, they know not what they do. The people that try to do this, but it isn't just the people. The cells of my body are also part of this conspiracy. They're doing what they're told. They're reacting. My beliefs that I'm flawed makes my own chemistry determined that it needs to be afraid. So it's an inside job, this healing. And if I may, whenever you feel something like that, let's say your pattern is anxiety or fear or, whatever it happens, even if it's a habit, an addiction you have, anything that seems to be pulling you off center, try to remember to just do the following. Start with, okay, first, wow, it's happening again. A couple of deep breaths, and what's really nice, one hand on your heart, one on your tummy, right here, lower tummy. And it's kind of like battery cables. I always think of it as that, like to plug in, but not anxiously, but just to plug into God, to peace, to self, inside. So a hand on my lower tummy and one on my heart. And whatever may be happening, oh my God, I so-and-so called just now and I see I'm getting anxious again. Oh my God, the bank called and I'm always struggling with my account. Here comes my anxiety again. Or it could just be whatever else, like it could be an addiction. God, I'm feeling that craving for such and such again. There's a song, by the way, I got a segue. There's a song by Styx. You remember the band Styx? And it's Why Me? It's a great tune. But look up the lyrics, because it's like he says, there's this world, and isn't it funny how some days you think everything's kind of going okay, but before you know it, something's come to get you. And he says, and where do you go? What do? You got bills to pay, and he starts by saying, we're all struggling with these anxieties. And here comes anxiety is one of the lines, oh my God, here comes anxiety. But the second part of the song he gets to, he says, and all of a sudden he realizes, he goes, and everybody says, why me? At the end of the day, it's not just me. We're all sitting around anxious and afraid. Why me? Why? Gosh, I don't know. It's just these things happen. And, so the recognition, God, this is happening again. Don't personalize it. Don't think it's only you. This is like look at it and go, wow, here's that crap again. The lie again. Oh my God, I started getting anxious because, I did a project, and somebody said, or a class, or whatever you do, somebody said, you look like you've aged a lot since the last time I saw you, or your hair looks terrible. What's wrong? We start to, oh my God, really? Whatever it is that sets you off, whatever it is that takes you off your center, stop, especially the patterns like anxiety, panic attacks. Oh my God, and you put your hand over, the heart, upper chest and the lower tummy, and a few breaths first. Okay. Let's go parasympathetic for a second. Let's center, breathe. I am relaxed with each breath. And slow your breathing so that it helps actually override the anxious response. Very simple technique. And when you see people say, here, I'm going to show you 5 techniques, they'll all help a bit. But if they don't also make you understand that you're addicted to what you're feeling, you won't have quite the full success. In any case, centering. Okay, I recognize it's happening again. I'm having one of my panic attacks, okay? crowded place, whatever it was. It set me off. Okay, it's happening again. Don't go into it too far. Just acknowledge it's happening. I'm not denying it. I'm not minimizing it. It's happening again. Okay. Second, this is not likely about anything that's happening right now. If it is, take action to protect yourself, to be safe. No problem. But generally, when I go into a mall and it's crowded and I have an anxiety attack, a panic attack, it is not because the people in the mall are going to do something to me. It's not happening right now. And it helps to say that. This is not about anything that's happening right now. That's part 2. The centered breathing and acknowledgement. I'm feeling it again. Then it's not about anything that's happening right now. And, continue some relaxed breathing. You could imagine a few breaths maybe with each of these statements. And it's not about what's happening right now. It leads me to the second half of that sentence, still part 2, which is, if it's not happening right now, oh, I get it. This is about some unhealed wounds. I don't even have to know what they are. Just right now, I'm just acknowledging this is about unhealed wounds. From when? From the past. So, breathing, I'm upset again. This is not about what's happening right now. This is about some unhealed wounds from the past. Breathe, 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 breathe. Good. Third, I'm going to give all of this to you, God. My panic, my anxiety, my chemistry. I'm going to give all of this to you. My events of the past that I know or don't know. The mall, the crowd. I don't know what else to do with it. I can't fix it all. It's just there, and so I'm just going to give it to you. Perfect, perfect. Breathe, breathe. Next, after a couple breaths, what would I like to feel instead? You know what I really want? So remember, I was doing the I am relaxed to kind of calm down. Let's do that, except let's change the words to I am at peace. I am okay. Something that's even more proactive, like I'm safe. It's more specific wording to my condition rather than just trying to calm myself down. I am relaxed, I am relaxed. Instead, I can actually add, I'm loved. I'm at peace. I'm happy. And you just calm and breathe. But don't just say it. Feel it. Make yourself believe it. This is a positive form of hypnotherapy. So I'm affirming something positive, which means I'm not doing something wrong, like hypnosis, a hypnotic trance that the ego world puts me into. It's a positivity of a hypnotherapy. It's a I have the right to choose this because this is actually a healthy thing I'm calling in. Therefore, it's closer to reality. I'm not calling in a non-reality, an illusion, like fear and anxiety about I'm a flawed person or people are out to get me. Everything's okay. Everything is okay. Breathe, breathe, breathe. And the 5th step is just to give thanks. And give thanks is important. This is kind of like the 5 steps that some of you know that I teach, the 5 steps of the soul level healing process. I wrote a book called Healing the Heart and Soul. And in there are 5 steps to healing. Just like there are 5 steps that, like the grieving process. Except this isn't just grief or grieving. This is healing the soul, finding out what's really going on inside, and then turning it around and healing the soul. So it's kind of like those steps, but slightly different. Just slightly different wording. But the 5th one is the same as in that technique, which is give thanks. The reason is because I'm saying to myself, this is true. What I just did is true. It's factual. It's so true that I can actually say, and so it is. Like amen, or I give thanks. I'm saying it because it's factual. It's true. What I just did, I actually gave it up, replaced it with something new, and I feel that something new, that peace. Wow, and it is, and so it is. Amen, amen. And so it is means it is a fact. I do feel this. So it's great to end or close that process with the reality that you're okay. Now, added to that, when I've done that, I actually am changing my chemistry, because my body says, because you feel flawed, we need to feel constant cortisol and other, forms of chemistry, chemicals in the body that go along with what you believe about yourself. And they're usually not good. And the ego loves that because it just attracts more of itself. So it's like a company, like a cigarette company that sells you something after putting something in the tobacco to get you addicted to it. They can't lose, right? So it's along those same lines. The ego is like selling you on your belief system that you're flawed, then giving you chemicals. It's almost like it's selling you chemicals, but it's giving you these chemicals like you're a pusher, giving you this to get you hooked on it, because then you're going to come begging for more. And it's kind of weird, because if you ever try to just starve those emotions, those chemicals, they're going to get quite ticked off, because it'll feel like, where's my fear? Where's my anxiety? You're not going to think it's that. You're going to think you've lost something of value, but you're not. But you won't know that, because it's going to convince you you need fearful chemistry, fear-based chemistry. Well, after all, how do you expect to protect yourself if you're not ready and on charged, all the time, charged and online and ready to run and fight and defend, and even verbally, you find you just can't stop defending yourself or whatever it is. That's the same stuff. Why? Why do you have to talk and defend or whatever it is? Overly explain, overly defend, or whatever. Why? Well, I just have to make sure you know that I'm not stupid or that I'm right or whatever it is. Is that God speaking? Not likely. So all that is ego and the chemistry that matches the ego. And when you try to just starve it, it will fight more. But when you replace the chemicals with a different chemical, except a love-based chemical, a love-based chemistry, peace, calm, oneness, everything's okay, trust, and so on. When you replace the other with this new chemistry, the ego is going to still be quite inflamed about this, but your body's going to say, we don't understand what you're all tripped out about. We feel okay. And then it can metaphorically start questioning the guidance of the ego. So believe it or not, little exercises like this can actually dismantle the control to a degree that the ego has. It just so happens we're doing right now, just started an online a course on revelation, the revelation of our divine self. And we're using the book of Revelation as a metaphor. It doesn't mean like it's like a little Bible study class, but you can still sign up and check it out with us. But what's important is that book is so mystical that it's got several layers. But one of the layers in there is what I just described, which is that it's the ego. You hear in the book of Revelation about evil, the devil, Satan, the beast, the Antichrist, and all these different kinds of things. Well, biologically, the esoteric biology of it is that the beast is the ego in the psychology, and it creates all these chemistries, and this is just one layer of the story, but it creates all this chemistry. And when you hear about plagues and locusts and all this stuff in Revelation, 7 seals being opened and plagues coming and all that, all it's describing is the cleansing of your addictions, including your addiction to fear and anxiety. It's a cleansing of your addictions. Those plagues, all that stuff coming out. It's the parts I don't want to look at. That's why Revelation starts off with the address towards 7 churches. It's the 7 chakras, 7 states of consciousness that it's addressing. It's addressing my 7 states of consciousness so that I'm doing a self-inventory. And I need to do a self-inventory so that I start taking responsibility in my inner life so that I'm ready when my addictions start being purged during the 7 vials of wrath and all this kind of thing. So it's pretty amazing. And after you do your purgings of the 7 chakras through the 7 seals and so on that go on, it's after cleansing that all of a sudden the ego rears up. That's why some mystics have described fasting. Jesus, 40 days, 40 nights. Fasting, because when you fast, even food can be an addiction. A distraction is another word for addiction. So Jesus fasts long enough to where the ego rears its ugly head and says, who do you think you are, fending off my pharmacy of ego-based chemicals? That's not going to happen. And Jesus says, talk to the hand. I'm not interested. You got nothing to offer me. Oh, I'll give you the world. I'll give you this. I'll give you power. Doesn't do anything for me. So it just didn't land anywhere, which is why he's able to then pursue becoming the Christ. As in the book of Revelation, for us all to become the Christ, the brides of God eventually, because we realize we're not the harlot, whore of Babylon that's described in that book. They call it, that's the wording they use. We're not the people that once bargained our lives away, chemically speaking or anatomically speaking. I no longer sell myself to codependence, to any other kind of addiction, including anxiety. I'm trying to avoid anxiety by being codependent. Well, as long as you're in my life, I don't feel so anxious. Well, only for a while, because eventually you might leave or seem to leave. You might leave mentally, emotionally, physically, affectionately. You're still going to hit me with my stuff eventually, trigger it eventually, and I'm going to hate you for it. That's why relationships get so triggered, because I don't like that you're showing me one of my problems by not giving me what I want. I want you to be one of my pushers. Be my pharmacist. Give me the drugs that make me feel less fearful and anxious. Another way to do it is, if we go into couples counseling, maybe we can create a safe container to talk about our stuff so that the anxieties I'm trying to cover up with you can surface and you can embrace, you can hold space for it to come up, and then we heal together and I heal within myself. That's another alternative. Who wants to do that? That doesn't sound very exciting. You don't go down the aisle and end up at the altar and they say, and do you love each other through the oncoming eventuality of therapy and the anxiety disorders that will come up when they cannot suit your needs? Instead, I'm going to be there for you, babe. We're going to pull love, through sickness and health. But it's a lie, because I'm going to help you not have issues. Instead, it should be, and despite my humanness, will you hold that space while I unravel and dismantle the lies of who I am? Instead of, I'm going to pretend to be something you need, it's, no, actually, I'm going to let go of that stuff so you can see who I really am. Are you okay with that? And asking each other, embracing each other at that level. Anyway, I pray this is making good sense, and I pray that it sounds, as applicable as possible, because the world doesn't want, there's that old saying, what they don't want you to know. The world does not want us to realize that we're actually addicted to fear and anxiety. And I know that sounds weird. You would say, well, I don't sit around going, is there anything I can be anxious about? But the program is there, waiting for the other shoe to drop, creating more than one relationship that rejects you or betrays you. That didn't just happen. It's there. And people say, I just knew that was going to happen. Those are all signs of having an addiction to it. But we all have that to some degree or another. Here's a quick example. There's a guy, let's say, there's a saying that men love to fix problems. So whether it's a male or a female, the masculine in a man or a woman, let's say it's the masculine part that loves to problem solve or fix problems. Now, that would mean, think about this honestly, would mean that in some way, shape, or form, they're going to maybe fix something and people go, wow, thank you for fixing that. They now have a false, benefit from this, a false kind of pleasure effect. There was a crisis, look out, fixed it. Pleasure. Which means my brain starts getting wired with pleasure being associated with crisis. Gosh, I don't feel as loved lately. Now, subconsciously and chemically, I put out to the world, we need a drama. And the right people take the hook of the chemistry that's floating in the air, because these pheromones and chemicals, they become airborne. So people are picking them up. Somebody goes, oh, they slip and fall, not even knowing why, because they had their program of being a victim, let's say. They slip and fall. You're to the rescue. You run over there. Oh, you're so kind the way you picked me up and helped me. Oh, no worries. I was just being helpful. When deep down, you set it up. You set up your part of it. So there's actually a pseudo pleasure response. That's all connected to dopamine and all these other things we won't go into. But it's a false pleasure response. So all of a sudden, without that, I feel less of a person. People that have had jobs and retire and they don't know what to do now. And so they die emotionally. Guys, that's really tragic. But all this, the ego chemistry is going to kill you, first mentally and then emotionally. But it's going to also kill you eventually physically. But it's going to kill you. The ego chemistry, it creates an acidic condition in your body, so you sit around bathing in acid. Does that even sound good? You're sitting around bathing in, you're actually bathing in acid. The cells of your body. Well, when the cells of your body bathe in acid, the walls, the lining, or rather the walls, protective sheath or walls, start getting eaten away. That can't sound like it goes good places, because that's when you start to have the hyperreactions called cancer. So none of this is great stuff. But nobody will own that they actually have an addiction to this. And again, I'm not saying you sit around pining for anxiety or problems. It's typically going to be unconscious. But it's important. This is happening. I play a part. This is my old stuff, once again, showing up, not a problem, giving it to God. What I really want to feel is love and self-worth, peace and joy, oneness, happiness. Call that in instead. Ultimately, you can only do a bit of repair and healing of this as you go. Ultimately, you can only do so much. It'd be great if I could tell you, it'll heal it all. You can only do so much. The big picture, which is why we're studying the revelation of our divine self, the big picture is you need the presence of God for the ultimate transformation from the old self to the new self. And then when you do that, you shift from having a body bathed in acidity to one of balance and or alkalinity. You shift from a body that is addicted to certain chemicals, and it needs that, whether it's going to get it from a TV news flash or oh my God, I can't believe that's happening. And then you can even say, I didn't like watching the news, had some terrible thing. But you, on an unconscious level, you knew, just like the newsstand hypnotherapy example I gave, the exercise or study that they've done. On some level, you knew the news show before it even came on. You were setting yourself up for another panic attack. And something in you says, whoa, I love that. It's like the problem solver. Man, I got over that. I went and had some ice cream. I feel better. It's just constant. The addiction to the adrenaline fear or the addiction to fixing it. Either one, it's not good. So the big picture is this self with the toxic chemistry gets purged out of me, healed out of me, a day at a time, in a sense, but it gets healed and it's replaced with new chemistry, and it's called a light body. So we're all heading to a new race, a new body, a new consciousness. It may not look like it when you look at the world, but we're all heading in that direction. If you're already on track and doing the healing of yourself, it comes the easy way. It's an easy transition from semi-light body to a light body, not an easy transition from totally toxic human body to a light body. That's not an easy transition. So that body is going to have to die on one level or another, physically, and be incarnated eventually after light bodies are the new thing, and you might fit into one eventually, so you do enough work on the other side to where you can come in, or die metaphorically. You might have severe deaths mentally, emotionally, and it's better to just assume you're in between those two. There are some things we're willing to learn the easy way and some things we insist the hard way. But codependence is in your chemistry. I don't mean just your parental genetics. It's also things you learned after dealing with traumas and so on. So watch yourself. Be careful. Be responsible. Codependence, alcohol, drugs, they're all the same. If we didn't even have external things like that, we have chemistry inside, believe it or not, we're far more addicted to, and that has done far more damage than any drink you've ever had. It's not to say that you should drink. I'm saying there's worse. It's all unhealthy. And only love and forgiveness, only peace and an understanding of oneness can start to turn that around and give us a new chemistry. But don't just say oneness, here we go. You have to do the steps of, I see that this is a pattern. If you don't like the word addiction, I see it's a pattern. And it's here again. And breathe, breathe, breathe. This is about unhealed wounds from the past. This is not coming from the now presence of God. This is coming from unhealed wounds of the past. Breathe, breathe, breathe. I'm giving it to God. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Replacing it with something new. Breathe, breathe, breathe. And give thanks. Okay? I pray, as always, that this has made sense. And many blessings to you, and take good care of yourselves, everybody. This isn't to be a harsh or intense lesson. Just see it and take care and realize, I don't need that. I just don't know. I think God is good. That's what I would like. Love, peace, and choose that more and more often. And try not to slot into being the negative bringers of chemistry that some people will want you to be in their lives. Recipients of stuff, getting you to react, getting you upset, getting you mad at them. Sometimes they're baiting you like their pharmacist, so to speak, their pusher, so to speak. So be careful not to get slotted into that by people. Another way of saying that is, not to react to people's hooks into getting you to react, all right? Join us if you can. You can still join us in the Revelation of the Divine Self class. It'd be great to have you. But also Sundays, all Fridays, we have these free talks. We appreciate, guys, if you donate, there might be a donate button. We appreciate any donations you can share. $5, $5 billion, whatever. Anything you want to donate, it's greatly appreciated. But we freely give this and not expect it, but we're open to that. And this is Friday nights, every Friday pretty much. And also Sundays are free, but you can donate there too if you like, but they're free. Sunday, sacred services. We bring these things to you, and we appreciate any support, whether it's in prayer or support with comments or just your internal gratitude becomes a chemistry that wafts out there to the world, and we can pick that up. Gratitude is an energy, and it's also a chemistry. So thank you very much, for that. There are healthy addictions, so to speak, and that's the healthy love-based chemistry, okay? So it's okay to feel love, and that too is a chemistry, but it's an okay one. It's a good one. So many blessings to you. I pray that this has made sense and appreciate everything you guys do for us. Love doing what we do for you. And if you have questions, remember, if you ever want anything in terms of have questions or whatever, my website, michaelmirdad.com, is available there. You can find my online store for books and videos and all kinds of things. There's just always too much to be able to go and mention all that sort of thing. So take a chance, take a shot and see what's there that you might like. We have really great charts, astro charts and so forth, that help you with your life guidance, whether it's for moving or life purpose. I love the things we supply because they're supportive of a new life. So really love that, all right? Anyway, many blessings to you guys. Lots of love. Peace. Bye-bye.